Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Smart Tea podcast, where we talk about the lives of scientists and innovators who shape the world. I'm Aarati.
And I'm Jyoti, Aarti's mom. And I had so much fun with Aarti when she invited me over to co host on the Francis Kelsey podcast on the FDA and their stronghold.
Yep, 2 episodes
That
ago.
I'm being a squatter in her podcast right now.
Oh, yeah, you've settled in really nicely.
I'm an immigrant, so I know all about gaining permanent resident status. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
working on it. I'm using all the clout that I have with Aarti to convince her that I can do this more often.
Yes, but you're doing it very legally. You're filing all the proper paperwork.
Yes.
Yes.
I have petitioned through the appropriate channels. Her dog is on my side.
My dog is your sponsor, so.
Yeah, you might see me here more often in this space. So, and I hope so. I hope you get to see me more often in this space.
Well, I'm very glad to see that you're settling in so nicely and that you have gained the confidence to be my co-host, which is really fun. So I'm really
Yes,
happy.
I hope I can live up to your standards. They are very high.
My
You
lofty
take this.
expectations
You
for being
no
a
no. You take this
podcast
very
host.
seriously, and I really appreciate that. I like,
Yes.
and I think you got that legitimately. When you take something on, you do it right.
Mm-hmm.
That is your attitude, and I understand completely that this podcast is something that is very important to you, bringing the lives of scientists, bringing the humanity into science again, connecting people to scientists as real people. So yeah,
Yes.
so I am very much in favor of what you're doing and would love to support you. And if this works for you, I would love to be here more often.
Yes, definitely. Well, I have a lot of friends and things, but there's a very limited number of them that I feel like could actually do really well with a podcast and, bring it the energy that it needs and things like that. So
Yeah.
you are one of the few. So congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You're on the short list.
I appreciate that. It's
Yeah.
always great to be on the short list. Thank you.
Yes.
So, what are we doing today? Who are you going to talk to me about?
Yes. So, how I got here is a little bit of a story. The person that I'm going to share with you, for those people who don't know, the podcast is really a hobby right now. For my day job, I have a science communications company and I make all sorts of science media like animated videos and infographics. And I do a little bit of writing also. And earlier this year, I met a guy in New York City named Jonathan Schaff, who is a brilliant copywriter, and he started a blog on clean energy called Green Juice.
Green juice.
Yes, and I love that name because it's all about sustainable energy. So the green transition, and then juice as in energy and power. So that's what he's interested in. And he's a brilliant, very funny writer. He has a great sense of humor, and he's very curious about all things related to how we can transition to a cleaner, more equitable world. And so he's writing this blog and going into different topics on this subject. And I've teamed up with him to mostly draw fun cartoons to intersperse into his blog that hopefully match his sense of humor, but also help kind of hammer home some of the science that he talks about.
A nice mix. Nice
Yeah.
mix.
But also, I do try to help him out with the science as much as I can because sometimes the science behind some of these energy topics can get a little bit dense. And so I try to
Yes.
help provide some metaphors or some simplified explanations about certain topics for his readers.
And your illustrations are also very helpful in that regard to kind of bring home the point in a very nice way.
Yes, I hope so. And wherever I can, I try to make it a little funny and humorous too. I've
Yes,
definitely drawn like Godzilla more times than I thought I would have to as a science illustrator. So,
that's
you know,
that's fun. That sounds really good.
yeah. And so recently he finished publishing a 3-part series on batteries. And so when he was writing about that, he was asking me questions about like how batteries work.
Hmm.
And I'm not really a battery expert, so I was doing my own Googling around to figure this out. Like, of course, I learned about batteries in
Yes.
physics classes in undergrad and, high school and things like that, but I haven't actually looked at the topic for quite a while.
Yes.
And so as I was Googling, trying to figure this out, of course, my mind wanders over to this podcast and I'm like, I wonder who even invented batteries? Like, where did this
Yeah.
idea even come
Where
from?
did it come from? Yes.
And so today, that's what inspired this story. I'm going to be telling you the story of Alessandro Volta, who is the scientist who was obsessed with electricity and harnessing its power for human use.
Nice. This sounds like a really fun topic. I'm so excited.
And if you haven't guessed already, his last name Volta is where we get the word volt from,
Ah,
like
he is
voltage,
so
volt.
big that
Mm-hmm.
voltage and volt came from that.
Yes.
Interesting that he is actually a unit. Just like I was just thinking when you just now said, I was Googling this and I was Googling that, and I was thinking to myself, the word for researching the topic has now become Googling. It's become synonymous.
Yes.
So
Yes.
it sounds like the word volta has become
Yeah.
so synonymous with the idea of energy that it's become a unit of energy now.
That's actually the same for a lot of electricity. Like I think amps came from ampere and
Ah,
ohms, I think also, like the Ohm's
came
law and
from the
everything.
person who, oh,
Yeah.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
So
So I
the
think this is a
original idea,
trend in
this is a
energy.
good trend. I like it.
Yes. Yes.
Nice.
Okay. So I know you with the names. So I'm going
Yeah.
to say his full name one time. So
Ah, no. Okay. What's his full name?
his full name is Alessandro Giuseppe Antonio Anastasio Volta.
No.
Yes.
Whoa. All right. All right. I think
Yes.
every uncle, every grandpa, every remote relative has now been honored on his
Yes.
entire lineage.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully they had that same thing going like we had in our previous podcast where
Hmm.
Pliny the Elder was named after
Yeah. Pliny the Elder.
Pliny. Thank you.
Yes.
These three, four names have now covered his entire, you can map him genetically using these names.
Yes. And speaking of Pliny the Elder, Alessandro was also born in Como, Italy, but he was born February 18th, 1745, which is the same place that Pliny the Elder was born,
Yes,
just like
yes.
1700 years earlier.
Okay, got it, got it.
So Alessandro was from a noble family, and he was the youngest of 9 children, 7 of whom survived into adulthood.
Okay, nice big family there. Hmm.
Yep. His father was Filippo, and his mother was Donna Maddalena. For some reason, Alessandro did not start talking until he was nearly 4 years old.
Oh,
And his
wow.
family thought he might be a mute or have some sort of
Hmm.
mental disability at first because he's way behind the curve.
But
But
maybe he was much, much higher in wisdom, where
yes,
he's like, unless I have something really important to say, I will not bother.
yeah, I'm not just going to babble nonsense.
Yes, we have examples of that in our Indian culture. We have examples where a father has dismissed his only son as a mute and probably a dull-witted boy. And then he comes in contact with a great sage who says, "Who are you?" or something like that. "What's your name?" Something like that. And
Yeah.
he spouts eternal wisdom in
Yes.
response to the question instead of just saying, "I'm Jyoti" or "I'm Aarti." This
Yeah.
quote unquote dull-witted boy
Yes.
just says
Let me tell you the
something
meaning of life.
extremely profound, like,
Yes.
"I'm neither the earth nor the sky. I am who I am, and I'm the
Yeah.
soul." So yeah,
Yes.
I think when parents have kids like that, they need to take a step back and say, maybe a genius is
Yeah.
hidden in here.
Yes. And I think that's exactly what his father eventually came to realize because of course Alessandro eventually did learn to speak fluently and it became quickly clear that he was actually one of the brightest, most intelligent kids in the school. And his
Wow.
father even said like, "Wow, we have a genius here and we didn't even know about it."
Yes.
Yeah.
Still waters run deep.
Yes. His father died in 1752 when Alessandro is just 7 years old.
Oh, that is so sad.
Yeah. And although the family was from nobility, Filippo, the father, hadn't been very responsible with money. He had been
Hmm.
known to throw lavish feasts and parties. And so when he
Okay.
died, Alessandro's mother didn't have enough support to take care of all seven of her children alone. So Alessandro and two of his sisters were sent to live with their uncle, who was an archdeacon at the Como Cathedral.
Oh, okay. Hmm.
Yeah. So Alessandro's family in general were devout Catholics, and
Yes.
they had wanted him to go into either law or priesthood. And in fact, three of his older brothers became priests, and two of his sisters became nuns. So
Hmm.
strong
That
family tendency.
extremely strong tendencies towards the church and its order.
Yes. And
Okay.
they even sent him to the Royal Seminary at Como to study.
Huh.
But by the time he was 16, Alessandro had fallen in love with chemistry and physics.
Of course. Yes.
Yes. In particular, he was fascinated by the work of an English chemist named Joseph Priestley, who was
Oh,
known for.
Priestley.
Do you know this name?
Is that the guy who did oxygen, or am I wrong?
Yes, you're
Oh my
correct.
goodness, my poor
Good
little
job,
brain cells are
Mom.
actually working. Oh
Good
my
job.
God. Oh my
Yes.
God. I'm impressed with myself. All right.
Yes. So he's known for inventing carbonated water, discovering that
Hmm.
oxygen can form as a result of decomposing mercury oxide, and for his
Ah,
work on electricity.
nice.
Yes, so he's done a bunch of things. But the work that Alessandro was most interested in was the electricity part. So Joseph
Yes.
had written a history of electricity and had replicated experiments done by other scientists like Benjamin
Hmm.
Franklin, John Canton, William Watson, and Timothy Lane, and included them all in his writings. So Alessandro is very taken with Joseph Priestley's writings on electricity, and he even wrote a poem about electricity.
Wow.
And I tried really, really hard to find a copy of the poem, but unfortunately I couldn't. I think it was like a high school poem that he had written.
It might also have been in Italian, so don't beat yourself up too
Probably.
much. But he's mixing art and science, just like somebody else I know. That is very nice.
Well, I have no basis for this, but I kind of really like the idea of like one of his high school literature teachers giving him a homework assignment saying you have to write a poem. And he's like, I'm going to write it about electricity because I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with that. And the teacher's like, that's not what I was going for, but okay.
But
you know,
okay, I'll give you
yeah,
an A anyway because I
yes,
can't figure what you have written out. So
yeah.
I'll just give you an A.
Okay, great.
All right.
Obsessed. Great.
Nice.
So this is a really good place to kind of make a quick detour into what scientists know about electricity at the time.
At this time frame, yeah,
At this
yeah, that's a
time,
good one. Yes,
yes,
correct.
we know now like everything has an electric charge because all matter is made up of atoms, which have positive protons in the nucleus, and then a cloud of negative electrons spinning around in orbitals around the nucleus.
Yes,
And most matter exists in a neutral state because we have an
yes,
equal amount of positive and negative charges.
yes,
But since electrons are kind of whizzing around the nucleus, sometimes the electrons can break free from the atom and create a charge imbalance.
yes,
And so in the early 1600s, people didn't know this at all. They didn't know about atoms, they didn't know about electrons. They had observed certain electric phenomenons, most notably static electricity. So, like
yeah,
when you
correct.
rub certain materials together, like two pieces of dry laundry tumbling around in the dryer, or you rub a balloon against your hair, the charge in the materials gets separated, creating that charge imbalance. And
Yes,
so one material will build up a lot more negative charge than the other, and then
yes,
they'll cling to each other because
yes,
negative and positive
because
attract.
negative and positive like to, yes,
And in fact, an English physician, Dr. William Gilbert, showed that if you held a magnet near a material that had been rubbed to create an
hmm.
electric charge, the
Yes.
magnet would move and point towards that material.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay.
So he didn't
Hmm.
really understand what was going on, but now we know that, it's because if you rub the two materials against each other, you're creating one material to be more positive, one material to be more negative. And then if you hold, for example, the negative material up to the magnet, the positive end of the magnet will be attracted to the negative
Yes.
charges in
Yes.
that material. So that's what was happening.
Yes.
People, like I said, though, like they didn't know that.
Yeah. It was opposites attract, but then they didn't know this. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't know opposites attract. They didn't know about electrons. They didn't know they were building up separate charges. They just knew that rubbing certain materials together could create an attractive force. So they knew about static electricity. They had also observed that there are certain animals, like eels, that are able to shock fish and stun
Ah,
them.
the electric eel. Yes.
Yeah, so
Yes.
they knew about that. And
Hmm.
of course, they knew lightning exists,
Of course.
but they have no idea that all these things are related to
Hmm.
electricity.
Yes. It's
Yeah.
the electricity is the foundation of all these different quote unquote diverse phenomena, because
Mm-hmm.
one is happening out there, lightning in the sky, whereas electric
Yeah.
eels are shocking other fish down in the sea. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to connect these disparate phenomenon
Yeah.
as having the same underlying mechanism.
Yeah. And lightning obviously is so much more scary and dangerous than like laundry static cling,
Electric
you know?
eel, or just a wool rubbing against something else, or silk rubbing against something
Yeah.
else and creating a static force there.
Yeah. So it's hard to
Yeah.
kind of wrap your mind around the fact that these two things are related. They're the same thing.
Yes.
So, for the next 200 years or so, people were basically doing little experiments around electricity. So, for example, they would be creating an electric charge in one spot by rubbing materials together and then attaching those materials to a wire and then zapping people or objects with the other end of the wire.
So that now they're understanding that the charge that you created by rubbing materials together is actually transmitted over
Yes.
via the metal wire,
Yeah.
and you are able to transmit it into somebody else.
Yes. Yeah, we're starting to get the idea that like electricity can maybe travel. And then in 1752 is when Benjamin Franklin performed his famous kite flying experiment, where he flew a kite during a lightning storm.
Yes.
And at one end of the kite was a conductive rod. And
Yes.
then at the other end of the kite was a wet hemp string that was tied to a key that was dangling down from the bottom of the kite.
Yes.
And Benjamin Franklin held onto the kite using a dry silk string that would not conduct electricity as easily.
Wow, what a
Yeah.
brave man.
Yeah.
He has a theory in his mind that
Yes.
the lightning in the cloud has electricity.
Yes.
Using the kite, I can conduct it down towards me.
Yes.
And I mean, when you look at lightning, it's pretty scary. But
Yeah.
he's willing to take a chance and say, I have a theory. And I'm pretty sure this is correct because I have done some small experiments in the lab to prove this. And
Yes.
so now I'm taking it to a massive scale where I'm going to prove that the electricity cannot really come through to me because I'm dry. But however, it'll go to the key because it's going
The
through
key
a
is
wet,
wet, and the wet material
conductible,
will
is more
conduce
conducting
electricity.
there. And
Yes.
now I can direct the electricity from the cloud, from the lightning to
Mm-hmm.
go where I want it to go and not
Yeah.
go where I don't want it to go.
Yes. Very
They
brave
were
guy.
brave people.
Well, I mean, I do also get a lot of comments now on like social media on our YouTube channel and like TikTok channel. People comment and they're like, is this podcast basically just like a trial of errors throughout like scientific history? Because this kind of experiment would never be condoned today. If you were trying to study electricity, there's
Absolutely.
so many safety
Yeah.
protocols in place now
Yes.
where it's like,
Yes.
you cannot hold on to this kite string yourself. You need to
Yes.
like, But back to Benjamin Franklin. So I think a lot of people have this kind of image in their head that this, bolt of lightning strikes the kite and that travels down to the key. And then Ben Franklin figures out that lightning is electricity. But actually, probably what really happened was a lot less sexy than that.
Less dramatic. Less
Yes,
dramatic.
less dramatic than that. He flew the kite around, and the conductive rod probably picked up just ambient electrical charges from the storm. So,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
because the air is full of, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
got
the
it.
air is like full of
Mm-hmm.
static electricity during a storm like that. So it doesn't have to necessarily be lightning striking the kite. It is just the kite is picking up this ambient static electricity from the storm, and that travels down the hemp string to the key. And when Benjamin tried to touch the key, he felt a spark. And so
Ah,
from that kind of, experiment, he was able to conclude that lightning was probably electricity.
that actually makes a lot of sense because you're right. All the comics that depict Benjamin Franklin and his famous kite experiment do depict an actual lightning
Yeah.
strike. But the force of that much power would have blown him into the sky and brought him back down or something.
Yeah.
But this makes more sense
Yes.
scientifically. Very interesting, though.
But the other equally important thing that he realized was that electric power was potentially something that people could harness. So, because it had become stored in the key, then only when he touched it, he felt the electric shock. And so
Nice.
he's like, maybe we can
Yes,
do this,
the potential
purposefully.
energy of
Yeah.
the electricity in the key, and then he released it by touching it.
Yes.
Ah, nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So he started creating lightning rods on top of tall buildings that would not
Yeah.
only protect the buildings from lightning strikes, but could also be used to conduct experiments on how we could potentially harness that electric power.
Yes.
And so now back to Alessandro Volta, who is learning about all of these experiments through Joseph Priestley's writings on electricity. He becomes obsessed with electricity and he decides to ditch his formal education and not go to university in order to pursue his own experiments.
Yes, but the formal education that he's ditching is the one in the seminary where he was kind of on the priesthood track. So,
Yes, but I think also, I bet he also realized that like he's obsessed with electricity and people know so little about it that it's not like he can
yeah,
go to university and learn about it,
there
you know?
is not much out there. He wants
Yeah,
to figure
there's
out
not like a
something brand
class.
new.
Yeah, he can't
Yes,
go and become an electrical engineer. It's not a thing,
correct,
you know?
correct. There is not much known. That makes
And so
sense.
throughout the 1760s, he's largely following his own ideas and corresponding with the leading scientists in electricity, including Giambattista Beccaria, who was a
Hmm.
professor of electrostatics at the University of Turin,
Okay.
and Jean-Antoine Nollet, who was a French physicist. So
Okay.
these were apparently two very big names in the time. Alessandro was very outgoing. He was a very loud person and he was extremely driven to learn and work on electricity. So much so that he would sometimes forget to eat and change his clothes.
Oh,
And
wow.
so he had a servant who had to trick him into taking care of himself by
Ah,
asking him about his work. And then while Alessandro's like answering him with all
yeah,
this enthusiasm, the servant would be
yeah.
quietly handing him clothes that he would
Yes,
just kind
which
of,
he's unconsciously
yeah,
changing his
unconsciously
clothes.
changing
Yeah,
his
because he's
clothes or,
so passionately focused on
yeah,
explaining to this very intelligent servant who knows so much about his work that
yes,
he's asking good questions, that
yes,
he's now like, oh, whatever,
yeah,
I'm
let
just
me
changing
answer.
my neckcloth and I'm changing my shirt. But this guy is really useful. This servant is
Yeah,
really useful. He asks me
yes,
such good questions. He makes
yeah,
me think in a different way, actually. He's very useful.
yes. So I thought that was funny. The servant is
Yes.
probably like, yeah, whatever. This
Yeah,
guy's like,
whatever.
yeah, just
I'll figure
eat.
out. Maybe he just had to. And can you explain more about that? Maybe he had to
Yeah,
memorize a
that's all
couple
he
of
had to
good
do.
questions. Yeah, can you explain to me what you were explaining to the others? I heard a little bit. Can you please explain that to me a little better? And off
Yes,
goes Alessandro. Okay,
yes, there he goes.
nice, nice.
So in 1769, Alessandro published his first work, Devi Attractive Ignis Electrici, which translates to On the Attractive Force of Electric Fire. And
Oh,
that's in
hmm.
Latin. And in 1771, he published his second work, which I'm
Hmm.
not going to try and pronounce in Latin, but it translates to a new and very simple testing apparatus. And while both of these works had the results of some experiments he did or described some machines that he had built, both of them were largely theoretical. So just his thoughts on what could be possible. In 1774, Alessandro accepted his first official job as a physics professor at the Royal School in Como.
Interesting. He gets a job as a physics professor.
Well, I think in those times, even like a high school teacher was called professor.
Okay.
So I think he was teaching high school level.
But he had ditched his formal education.
Yes.
But he had gained credentials through real life experiences, and that was
Mm-hmm.
equally valuable, and society did deem it to be worthy.
Yes. All of his correspondences with like all these really big electrostatic professors and people in the field, they were obviously impressed with him, and they're like,
Yeah,
you're doing good work, keep it up, we love your ideas.
he knows what he's talking about. He has gained credentials via these kind of interactions, learning
Yes.
from the experts directly on a subject matter that he cares deeply about.
Yes. The same year, in 1774, he released a device called the electrophorus, which is basically a static electricity generator.
Okay,
So, importantly, he hadn't actually invented it, but he improved on it and made it so popular that many people thought he did invent it. In fact, another scientist, Johann Wilk, had come up with the device similar to the electrophorus about 12 years earlier.
okay,
But basically, what an electrophorus is it has two plates. The bottom plate is made from resin or wax, and then you rub that with a cloth or a piece of fur to generate the different separation in electric charges.
yes,
And so now the resin plate, for example, will have a negative charge, and
yes,
the cloth that you rubbed it with would have a positive charge. So then you take away the cloth and you place a metal plate on top of the resin plate.
okay,
And so now all of the positive charges in that metal plate move downwards towards the negatively charged resin plate,
okay,
and all the negative charges in the metal plate move away from the resin plate. So they move upwards to the top.
okay, okay,
So then, if you touch the top metal plate with your finger, it grounds the top plate, which means it drains away all of the separated negative charges. So
okay,
now, when you lift the metal plate off, that metal plate is containing only positive charges.
yes, got it.
And this positively charged metal plate can now be used for experiments. So you can
Huh.
discharge the positive charge in the top plate by holding it close to an electric conductor, like a piece of metal, and then you'll get a
Hmm.
little spark of electricity. And the cool thing about this is that the resin plate at the bottom keeps its negative charge for a really long time. So once you discharge the top plate, you can
Yeah,
just place it back on top of the resin plate, ground it with your finger again, and then the top plate is already ready to go for another experiment.
that's
So
nice.
you can continually be making this static charge over and over again, which is really useful for scientists who are studying electricity to
Yes,
have a device that will keep creating an electric charge.
yes.
The next year in 1776, which is America's independence for anyone keeping score at home, Alessandro made another sort of random discovery. He was on a fishing trip at Lake Maggiore,
Hmm.
and he noticed that in the shallower, more marshy areas of the lake, little bubbles of gas were rising to the surface of the water.
Okay,
He correctly determined that this gas was caused by decomposing plant and animal matter in the lake, which
okay,
we call methane today.
okay.
And methane is highly flammable. By 1778, Alessandro had figured out how to isolate the methane gas and was
Hmm.
using it to fire an electric pistol that he had created.
Wow.
It sounds like a weapon. Like, I was like, electric pistol, what? But
Yeah.
actually, it's not a weapon. It was a tool that he was using to test the concentration of different gases in the air. So it didn't shoot bullets or like
Okay.
wasn't dangerous. It had a plunger that would shoot out when the methane inside the barrel of the pistol was ignited by an electric spark. And then,
Okay.
depending on how far the plunger moved, he could measure how much methane or oxygen had been in the pistol barrel.
Okay.
It's kind of like a random thing, like it's just like kind of a non sequitur kind of.
Yeah.
But this, I thought it was important because it ended up that this laid the foundation for Charles's law, which is the formula for describing how gases expand with heat. And so like
Oh,
that led of course to all these like hot air balloons and like, all these kinds of exploding, devices,
nice.
things like that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I just thought it was like a
Nice.
fascinating little
That is fun.
detour.
Yeah.
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 In 1778, Alessandro's work became so well known that he was offered a professorship, this time real professorship.
For real in a
Yeah.
college or a
At the
university.
University of Pavia to teach physics. Pavia? Pavia. I don't know.
Area.
Pavia.
Somebody will have to correct us.
Yeah.
It's like your podcast is good, but your pronunciations need a lot of
Is
work.
horrible. Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Around this time, he also started spending time abroad, going to visit other physicists around Europe, including,
Hmm.
of course, Joseph Priestley. He also spent time with another scientist with a famous last name, James Watt.
James Watt, as in watts. Yes, as the
Yeah.
unit. Watts, the
Again,
unit.
another unit guy. Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. In the international system, it measures the rate at which the energy is used or generated. But he's going and visiting Joseph Priestley, whose work was like his inspiration to begin with. He
Yes.
read Priestley's work, which compiled the work of all other scientists, and now he's going to go meet Priestley and Watts, and so all these
Yeah.
great minds of that time
Yes.
who are all thinking about electricity, and everybody is attacking it from different angles to try and understand it better,
Yes.
and laying the foundation for the myriad uses of energy today.
Yes. Yes. And since there's no
Amazing,
like
amazing
electric
times.
conference, like
Yeah,
international electricity conference.
that's right. So they go and travel to each other.
Yeah. They're all traveling to each other. Yeah.
You know, your great grandfather
Mm-hmm.
was a well-known spectroscopist,
Yes.
and he laid foundations for spectroscopy in India
Mm-hmm.
in the early days around the freedom times and all that.
Yeah.
And I've heard
Mm-hmm.
stories about him through family, although I never got to meet him, that the greatest spectroscopists of the time would come visit him at home, and they would all sit around and nobody wanted to eat anything. They were all so engaged in discussion. They were always talking and saying these, big concepts were floating around, and
Yeah.
it was all fueled by endless cups of tea. I can imagine this in
Yeah.
their head. Maybe pipes, they had those pipes they used to have.
Yes.
I can
Yes.
see them
Have some
sprawled around.
cigars.
Yeah,
Have
some
a
cigars and pipes, and
yeah.
they're all sprawled around in their overstuffed
Yeah.
chairs and talking and talking, and everybody else has gone to bed and they're still
Yes.
talking about some
Yeah.
electric concept. It's fun times.
Yeah. Very, very fun to think about.
Yes, fun to think about.
Back at the University of Pavia, Alessandro's lectures became so popular that the Holy Roman Emperor Joseph II ordered that a new, larger auditorium needed to be built in order to,
Wow. Accommodate
yes,
all the interested parties.
yes. So he ordered that a
Fantastic.
new, larger auditorium needed to be built.
Yes. Yes.
And he gave Alessandro funding to buy new state-of-the-art equipment for the physics department.
Wow. I really love hearing these stories. It's so funny. We say we are progressing as
Yes.
human beings, as society,
Yeah.
but all these stories where even the previous one where we did Francis Oldham Kelsey,
Mhm.
we see these people in power, in political power, basically,
Yes.
who are working synergistically with the scientists
Yes.
to expand the scope of science, to expand the reach of science to the normal public.
Yeah.
And that is why big things happened.
Yes.
They say that when you have something very big that needs to happen, something like,
Like the space race.
yes, space race, that's when all people have to set their egos aside. They have to set their personal differences aside,
Mm-hmm.
and they have to actually look at what is best for the greater good of the community.
Yeah.
It's not about what's in it for me. It's basically looking at what needs to be done to make this great thing happen so that we as a society reach a higher level. And that's what is happening, I see here
Yeah.
as well.
And it was a point of national pride also. Like, it's like
Yeah.
we're the ones who figured out how to get to space first. We're the
Yes.
ones who averted the thalamide crisis while everybody
Yes.
else was, you
Everybody else
know,
was succumbing, and
yeah,
here now again this emperor, it's like
yeah,
he is a smart guy, everybody
yeah.
needs to
He has
understand.
a really
I
good
don't
chance of
understand him.
figuring out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, and just because I don't understand him, I'm not going to diss him and say poo poo papa, he's
Yeah.
talking nonsense. I'm not going to say that. I am actually going to say, hey, this Alessandro guy knows what he's talking about. Many people are interested in what he's saying,
Yeah.
and also they are able to he's able to communicate his very new concepts to a large audience in a very fun and engaging way. Let's make it
Yes.
happen, because I can see that whatever he is understanding about electricity is expanding our ability to harness energy, and
Mm-hmm.
and that is a very valuable tool for
Yes.
humankind. So
Yes.
let's make it happen, build that larger auditorium so that everybody can hear him, and who knows which brain in the audience is now going to be the next genius whose spark was engaged because of
Yeah.
Alessandro's talk. Wow,
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Let's go back to that.
Because now what we are doing now is we are doing the crab thing, where
Mm-hmm.
in order to make ourselves look better, we make pull other people down, but
Yeah.
you don't brighten your light by dimming somebody else's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hi everyone, Aarati here. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If so, and you wish someone would tell your science story, I founded a science communications company called SciComm, that's SYKOM, that can help. SciComm blends creativity with scientific accuracy to create all types of science communications content, including explainer videos, slide presentations, science writing, and more. We work with academic researchers, tech companies, nonprofits, or really any scientist to help simplify your science. Check us out at SciCommer.com. That's SYKOMMER.com. Okay, back to the story. So things are going really well for Alessandro, and in 1794, he even gets married to an aristocratic lady from Como named Teresa Peregrini, and
Okay.
together they have three boys,
Okay.
Zanino, Flaminio, and Luigi.
No, I don't want to deal with names.
I know, but I mentioned it because his last son's name, Luigi, ties
Okay.
in with another scientist who's about to enter our story, a scientist named Luigi Galvani.
Okay.
Luigi Galvani was an
Huh.
anatomy professor at the University of Bologna, but he had recently started dabbling in electricity because he needed to take his research in a new direction, and electricity is the new scientific frontier. And
Okay.
so he's like, okay, let's try this electricity something, even though he's an anatomy professor.
Okay. Okay.
In 1780, Luigi was dissecting frog legs and was hanging them by their nerve endings on
Oh
metal
my God.
hooks made of
No.
brass or iron. And we don't know what exactly he was trying to do. It might just be that he was just dissecting them for an anatomy lesson. So,
Okay.
we're not sure what the purpose of that was, but it just so happened that at the same time, one of his lab assistants was doing an experiment with static electricity.
Hmm.
And Luigi said, quote, while one of those who was assisting me touched lightly and by chance the point of his scalpel to the internal nerves of the frog,
Hmm.
suddenly all the muscles of its limbs were seen to be so contracted that they seemed to have fallen into tonic convulsions.
Ah,
So basically, this assistant was playing around with electricity. He
yes,
accidentally touched the metal scalpel that he was holding to the nerve endings of the frog legs that Luigi had hung up.
yes,
And those frog legs kind of contracted. They jumped like
yes,
that.
yes, yes,
So this was wholly unexpected.
yes.
Luigi did a ton of different experiments after this with more frog legs, other amphibians, warm blooded and cold blooded animals, different materials. And he even hung the animal limbs by their nerves on a copper hook and
Okay,
attached them to an iron railing outside. And then he
yes,
attached the lower part of the limb to a grounding wire and put this
yes.
whole apparatus outside in the middle of a storm.
Right, right. I think I'm seeing the connections.
And then he
Yes,
saw like when lightning flashed, all the legs would twitch.
because they're actually connected directly to the nerves.
Mm-hmm.
So they're
Yes.
making that important connection that
Yes.
electric impulses are in the human body as well,
Yes.
driving our motor functions.
Yes.
Wow.
And so, based on his previous observation when the assistant touched the scalpel to the nerve endings of the frog, he kind of expected that when lightning flashed, the legs would twitch. Like that made
Yes,
sense. But
yes,
what was very surprising is that when he left this whole apparatus out on clear days, when there was no lightning, no static electricity, and no electricity machine around, the legs would still twitch.
yeah.
So, this led Luigi to theorize that animals, not just frogs, but all animals, were electrically based, and that our nerves send signals to our muscles through electrical impulses.
Yes, yes.
And it turns out he was right about that.
He is right, and we should
Yeah.
be grateful for the correct interpretation, because if it was me, I'm just looking, I'm an experimenter also. But if
Mm-hmm.
I had set up an experiment saying, oh, these frog legs should twitch when there is electricity in the air due to the lightning, and they
Mm-hmm.
do, and then they do the same thing on a clear day, I would
Yes.
think my whole experiment was failed, because
Yes.
I would think, well, a clear day was supposed to be the negative control where nothing was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to happen, but it did anyway. So throw the whole thing out, and I would have thrown the baby out with the bath water. But
Yeah.
he came to the correct conclusion, which shows how well he has understood this whole system.
Well, partially. So temper that a bit. So it turns
Okay,
out he was right to come to the conclusion that our nerves send signals to our muscles through electrical impulses and that we animals are electrically based in some way.
okay.
Where he kind of went off the rails a bit is he thought that because the frog used to be alive, its leg still had some memory or stored up electricity,
Oh,
and
okay.
what he was doing, he thought, was he was actually being able to bring the frog leg back to life by hooking
Oh
it up
no.
to these
Okay,
copper
got it.
and iron metals.
Got it. Got it. So he did go off it. Okay.
Yeah. He's thinking that a jolt of electricity is bringing this animal back to
Back to
life.
life.
And guess what popular story that inspired?
Wait, is that Frankenstein?
It is.
Oh my goodness. So now it's the scientific works on
Mhm.
electricity are actually inspiring art as well.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
What a
Yeah.
lovely cross pollination happening there.
Yeah. I thought it was super interesting. So that's what Luigi's saying. Alessandro Volta, though, is not so sure about that. Luigi is essentially saying that the frog leg was generating what he called animal electricity.
Okay.
And Alessandro had originally thought that Luigi was right and was
Mm.
maybe even a little bit jealous of this discovery.
Huh.
But After Alessandro repeated Luigi's experiments, he thought it was more likely that the different metals was causing an electric current and that the frog leg just happened to be a really good electric conductor.
So what's happening is closer to what is happening with the electrophore, like
Yeah.
with the
So he thought it was more important the fact that Luigi had used brass and copper and iron metals to like attach the frog's legs.
yes,
And those copper metals and iron metals were the one that was actually creating an electric potential or an electric
yes,
difference. And then the frog's leg just happened to be like this wet, good material for conducting the electric current between the two metals.
yes, makes sense. Okay,
And so now Luigi Galvani and Alessandro Volta are locked in this debate, and actually the whole scientific community are taking sides in this very public argument that lasts for over a decade. People are fighting about this.
okay,
In 1800, Alessandro put the debate to rest once and for all by unveiling an invention that he is most known for called the voltaic pile,
voltaic pile. Okay,
which is essentially a battery, and it could provide continuous electric current in a circuit without the use of any animal tissue. So
okay,
that was the key point, that Luigi was saying that that the electricity was happening because of electricity stored in the leg when the animal was alive,
correct.
and that's what was creating the electricity, and he was bringing
Yes,
that back.
yes,
And now Alessandro Volta is like, look, I've managed to create a continuous electric circuit without using any animal tissue whatsoever. So it can't be that you've brought the animal tissue back to life. Like,
okay,
it's not stored up. There's no electric energy stored up in a dead limb. That's
got
what,
it. Okay,
yeah.
okay,
So, what Alessandro had done was he first realized that it wasn't only dead frog legs that twitched when hooked up to metals. When he touched two different metals, like
mm,
silver and zinc, to a live frog, the live frog twitched as well. So, it's
okay,
not just dead animal tissue. So, then this is where we get into what are scientists and their non existent safety protocols.
okay.
So he then touched these two metals, the silver and the zinc, to his own tongue. And
Tongue.
yeah, and he
Mm,
felt a slight tingle happening in his tongue.
okay,
But it didn't work if he attached the zinc metal and the silver metal to wires and then touched only the wires to his tongue. Then he didn't feel
okay,
anything.
okay.
So from this, he deduced that maybe the silver and the zinc metals had to be wet in order to
Ah,
create an electric current.
okay.
So he dunked them in water, and then now
Yes,
the two metals are in like little cups of water and they're attached to wires, and he puts the
yes.
wires on his tongue and he
Okay,
feels the tingle again.
okay, okay.
And the more cups of water and zinc and silver that he added to the circuit, the stronger the tingling sensation got.
Yes,
And then if instead of just plain water, if he used salt water or brine, it made the tingle even stronger.
yes. Got it.
So basically, his voltaic pile was just a stack of pairs of silver and zinc discs with
Yes.
pieces of cardboard soaked in salt water in between each pair of discs.
Okay.
So you have silver disc, zinc disc, wet cardboard,
Yes.
silver disc, zinc disc, wet cardboard, so on and so
Continuous
on.
sandwiches. Yes, with the salted cardboard piece in between as the actual meat in between, and it's all a
Yes.
big pile.
Yeah, and you create a pile.
Okay.
And this pile of disks could generate a constant stream of energy or electricity
Yes.
without any rubbing, so it's not static electricity.
Yes.
And there's no external power, so it's not getting hit by a bolt of lightning or anything.
Yes.
So, how does that work?
Yeah.
Basically, what's happening is the zinc disks in Alessandro's voltaic pile are acting like an anode. So the zinc reacts with the salt water and produces electrons, which have a
Okay.
negative charge. And then the electrons flow through a wire circuit all the way around to the silver disk, which is the cathode, which is more
Yes.
positively charged. And this flow of electrons is generating a weak electric current.
Correct. This flow of electrons is what an electric current is.
Yes.
Yes. So this voltaic pile is the precursor to a battery cell then.
Yes, it is the
Yes,
first,
it is the
basically the first battery. It is
first
generating
battery.
electricity on its own. Yeah.
Wow. This is fantastic.
So depending on which metals you use and which
Yes.
acids or bases you use, you can change the electric potential between the anode and cathode, which can
Yes.
affect the strength of the electric current.
Yes. Yes. Make it faster, slower, more, less.
Yes. So he was
Yes.
using like zinc and silver. And today, in modern alkaline batteries, we still use zinc as the anode, but they use manganese oxide as the cathode, and they
Okay.
use potassium hydroxide instead of brine or seawater to
Yes.
create the electrons. And so it's much stronger reactions that
Much.
are happening.
Yes. Wow. So he was so close. So that's the
Yeah.
first step, and then they
Mm-hmm.
switch things out, and it's the
Yeah.
same concept
Yes.
because you have potassium hydroxide instead of salt, and
Mm-hmm.
and then you silver, of course, is extremely expensive. You don't want to have a
Yes.
regular simple little alkaline battery with that. So
Yes.
look,
Switch it out with copper, or you
yeah,
switch
you
it
can
out with,
sit there and
yeah.
substitute. Somebody who has the patience can sit it out, substitute,
Yeah. Try
and
different
find some
metals.
try
Yeah.
different metals, and now you
Yeah.
have the alkaline battery of today.
Yeah, that's the basic
Mm,
foundation for batteries today. And so you
fantastic.
can play with these different metals and acids and bases, and you can change the electric potential between the two metals. And
Yes.
this difference in electric potential is measured in volts, named
Okay.
after Alessandro Volta. So the higher the voltage of a
Yes.
battery, the
Yes.
higher the force on the electrons to get
Yes.
pushed through the circuit.
So you can buy a 3-volt battery or a 9-volt
Mm-hmm.
battery because they have
Yeah.
set up the differential between the two
Yeah.
metal electrodes, basically, and
Mm-hmm.
between the whatever material is actually doing the conducting, salt water, KOH,
Yes.
whatever is potassium hydroxide, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so that how fast do these electrons move, how
Yeah.
much is generated, and that
Yes.
determines what the voltage it can be of the battery.
Yeah. Basically.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Nice.
And quick side note, today we also have rechargeable lithium ion batteries,
Yes.
which use graphite and metal oxide for the anode and cathode.
Yeah.
And between them is a lithium salt. And
Okay.
in this case, I just thought it was interesting because in this case, the graphite and the metal oxide can actually swap whether they are acting as the anode or cathode based on whether the battery is being discharged or whether it's being charged.
Oh, that is
Yeah.
why rechargeable. So they
Yes.
take on different roles depending on what's
Yes.
happening, whether, and that has become the foundation of so many important uses of the battery today. The
Yes.
entire electric vehicle industry
Mm-hmm.
is based on these lithium batteries.
Yeah. All these energy storage, like from solar, from wind, for creating these electric vehicles that run on battery power, all our laptops, our phones,
Yes.
like
Yeah.
everything is based
Everything
on
is
this.
based on that. Everything is based
Yes.
on the initial discovery by Volta.
Yes.
These days, people are literally married to their cell phones or their computers.
I know I am.
There were times in the old days. My mom still remembers those good old days where people actually ate dinner together and they actually talked to each other. But
Yeah.
50% of the families, it's like you are just married so much to your cell phone and
Yeah.
or to your computer that even at the dinner table you're like, quickly, I'm just going to quickly check my message. Your life is incomplete without that cell phone.
Dad has done that a couple of times. Dad has like texted me something and I'm like, I am literally in the next room. Like, you could just come and tell me. But that's,
your dad, your dad
yeah,
is funny that way.
yeah, yeah.
But
Look at this.
where I was
Yeah,
going with it was that our lives today, I mean, we do consciously try to dissociate from our cell phones or from our computers and say, okay, no, we are going to have like a little retreat or a meditation time, or we're going for a walk. But
yes,
that's a conscious effort to deplug ourselves from all these gadgets
yes,
that we are practically attached to at this point. I cannot imagine life anymore
yeah,
without the cell phone or the computer. How would I work?
yeah. How would you function?
How
Yeah.
would I function without these two gadgets? I need it for just knowing what am I supposed to be doing now? Do I have an appointment with the doctor? Am I supposed to buy a gift for somebody's kid whose birthday party I have to go to?
Oh, yeah. I
Everything is
can't
on
remember
this.
anyone's birthday without a little notification.
Yeah. Volta is the one who set the foundation for this life that is completely based on
Hmm.
the concept of stored energy as in batteries. Yeah.
Yeah, batteries that are able to provide this like kind of constant electric current.
That is amazing. America is gaining independence and we are all developing dependence on cell phones and computers. We have become
Yes.
slaves. We got the golden shackles.
And we love our golden shackles
We love our golden
because,
shackles. We wouldn't know what to do
yeah,
without our golden shackles.
because in 2019, the Nobel Prize in Chemistry was awarded to the scientists who made the first commercially available lithium ion battery. So,
Ah, yeah, we
yeah,
love them. We
we
honor
love them.
them. Yeah,
Yes.
we have great respect for them.
Yes.
We love our golden shackles.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So that's what's happening today. Let's go back to Volta's time. Luigi Galvani died in December 1798, about
Hmm.
1 year before Alessandro Volta published his voltaic pile. And
Okay.
this was perhaps fortunate because Luigi had become very depressed at the end of his life because
Oh,
when the French occupied northern Italy at this time under Napoleon's command, he refused to swear loyalty, and so he was stripped of his jobs and titles. And so being proved wrong on a public stage about animal electricity probably wouldn't
would
have
have
done
crushed
nothing to
him.
help him.
Yeah,
Like,
it would have killed him if he had not died already.
exactly.
Oh,
So kind of a blessing in disguise, I guess, that he was not proven wrong at the end of his life when he was already in such a depressed
i-
state.
yes.
The voltaic pile, however, became an instant sensation, with
Hmm.
many other scientists now able to use it to conduct even more experiments on electricity because now they had a way to create a steady
Yeah.
flow of electricity.
You created a ready source of energy.
Yeah, and you're no longer relying on like creating a like static charge and then discharging it and then creating a static charge again and discharging it. Now you can
Yes.
just have this really constant steady flow of electricity, and
Yes.
they were able to conduct experiments in electromagnetism, study electrochemical reactions, and they were able to start using it to power devices like telegraphs.
Nice. Nice.
In
Wow.
1809, he became an associated member of the Royal Institute of Netherlands. Even Napoleon was so impressed that in 1810 he named Alessandro a count.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that is definitely impressive because somebody who is like the French emperor is
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging Italian scientist
Yes.
who
Yes.
has who he has kind of he has conquered. France has conquered Italy at this point under the Napoleonic era, and
Mm-hmm.
the French emperor is honoring an Italian guy
Yes.
with the
Yes.
highest possible honor.
Yes. And I found it also kind of like it's such an interesting difference that Luigi refused to bend the knee to Napoleon and
Yes,
was therefore stripped of all his titles and all his honors. And instead, Alessandro Volta is like, yeah, I'll take it. I'll become a count. Sure. And
yeah, yeah.
it's,
It's an interesting difference. That is true. There is a bit of patriotism there also, but
mhm.
also I think you can't say he was unpatriotic for accepting it. It is
Yeah, no.
more like my invention is that good.
Yeah.
It should be recognized. And I'm
Yes.
glad you're recognizing it, which is good for him, I think.
Yes, definitely. Thanks to his success, Alessandro became a rich man. He continued
Mm,
teaching physics until 1819 when he retired to Como, Italy. And he lived there peacefully for the rest of his days until he quietly died on March 5th, 1827. And he
yes.
was buried near his estate in Como. Since then, in 1899, a memorial called the Tempio Voltanio was built on the shores of Lake Como. It
Okay.
contains a museum that has a bunch of Alessandro's original instruments and personal items.
Hmm.
The Aula Volta, which is the large auditorium at the University of Pavia that was built to,
By the
accommodate his
emperor
large
there.
lectures,
Yeah.
that still exists. And they also have
Nice.
a collection of his scientific instruments at the university's History Museum.
Yes.
From 1990 to 1997, his portrait was on the Italian 10,000 lira note, along with the sketch of
Hmm.
his voltaic pile.
Okay. Okay. They really honored him in every way that they
Yes,
could. They remember him and they honor him.
yes.
Nice. That
And
is
I
nice.
think maybe the highest honor, haha. In 2019, an electric eel species, Electrophorus voltae, was named after
Ah,
him and is
wow.
described as producing the strongest bioelectric shock in nature, generating up to 860 volts.
Oh,
Isn't that
goodness.
crazy?
Wow, he got an eel named after him.
Yes.
That is honor
Yeah.
indeed.
Bringing
It,
back those eels into the
bringing
story.
back those eels.
That's the story of Alessandro Volta.
It is such a fantastic story, and it is amazing. The more you think about it, the more you recognize the importance of this voltaic pile or battery, as it is called today.
Hmm.
They are the reason that we are slowly being able to get away from our dependence on fossil fuels. If
Yes.
ever human beings are going to make it as a species and survive another 200 years,
Hmm.
it will be if we are able to get away from our complete dependence on fossil fuels and
Yes.
our ability to harness these inexhaustible supplies of energy like wind and the solar energy and
Hmm.
store them and then use them when we want to. That is going to be so important for us as a species, actually, because
Yes.
that is what is going to allow us to kind of not have these extreme changes in the climate and have horrible, horrible climate changes happening all the time.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things. Generating energy is one of the biggest carbon emitters because one of the key ways we generate energy is by burning fossil fuels. And
Yes.
so if we can transition to clean energy, renewable energy like solar, wind,
Yeah, and batteries are really the foundation of that, making better batteries, bigger batteries,
yeah,
more compact batteries that have more power.
yes.
That's what the world is going towards, and he set it all up for us
Yeah.
so many years ago. While America was gaining independence, he was setting us up for independence from fossil fuels.
Yes. That's a nice way to put it. So thanks again to Jonathan Schaff and the Green Juice blog for inspiring this episode. And I highly recommend reading it. Like I said, he's really a funny writer and very smart and very curious also. He does his due diligence. So I would highly recommend if you want to learn more about, green energy and transitioning, go check out his blog. I'll link it on the website and link it on social media wherever I can. So you can go check it out.
Sounds really fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Thanks for listening. If you have a suggestion for a story we should cover or thoughts you want to share about an episode, reach out to us at smartteapodcast.com. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky at Smart Tea Podcast and listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And leave us a rating or comment. It helps us grow. New episodes are released every other Wednesday. See you next time.